By January of 1987, the board members of S&W cease work on Hans Magnussen's boat. There are plans to destroy the boat, but they are challenged by Magnussen, claiming that he is the captain and should get to decide the final fate, and it is as old as some history. The boat is left unharmed. After this, S&W board member Sven Olsen records an audio tape in BlackRock explaining the failings of the S&W project, and places blame on the numerous corrupt members.
My name is Sven Olsen. I was one of the leaders of the SNW project. This project was doomed from the start. It was so badly planned that I should have realized how it was going to end. Instead of trying to get everyone working together voluntarily, they just forced everyone into this mess. I thought I was doing something good. But then that metro accident changed everything. I found out there were so many things that no one told me. Everything I knew about the project was wrong. They designed a biological weapon and sold it to the highest bidder. They don't care about this country. Look at this place. We moved uranium from here to the bunker using Bergman tunnels. You can control this whole facility from in here. And why? To secretly filch nuclear material.
S&W soon makes a deal with a man named Paul Lawrence, requesting him to bring all information on S&W to a certain someone. This deal allowed for Paul Lawrence to get a job as managing director for National Consulting Group. The data is later held in their data servers. In 1988, a local of the still crumbling Olbensöö district, Osmo Saarinen, starts a small brewery. His recipe would be so popular that he would later become one of the richest men in Stallberg, with his very own company, Osmo Olut, one of the most popular beer brands in the world. Various breweries would be built in multiple locations around Stallberg, such as Olbensöö and Pittieth. Osmo Olut also brought with it a lot of controversy, as many people started calling it the destroyer of Stallberg, due to how many people had become alcoholics. Bottles of Osmo Olut and umbrellas advertising the brand make their way into the S&W bunker. The exact circumstances surrounding this are unclear. In 1993, due to major neglect, a cheaply built Walter Corporation tenement in Olbensöö partially collapses. On the 18th of March 1993, the G2 generator in the Bergman power plant is broken by Robin. This accident hospitalizes Eric. By the 10th of May, another Bergman employee named JK manages to fix the generator, but 11 days later, Robin has broken it again. Soon after, around June, the Bergman power plant is closed down. Around the 90s, Eric retires and quits his job working in the Bergman tunnels. He leaves a note to Robin, reminiscing on their good times in the tunnels, and accepting that their relationship wasn't always the best, and requests that Robin keep the tunnels working for Stallberg. Sometime after this, however, Robin also leaves work in the Bergman tunnels. He later ends up working at the Stallberg Central Water Plant. His work there is also frowned upon by fellow employees. He works there for many years until being fired. In the late 90s, groundwater in the Olbensöö district is contaminated by a leak from a mining operation caused by the construction of a new railway from Orfeld to Celesta. On the 5th of November 2002, JK begins to feel weird pains in his chest while at the small power plant in Hammer Valley. This pain goes on a hiatus until the 13th of January the following year. By the 28th of August, JK expresses how he doesn't feel the same, and that his heart is causing him a lot of pain. His last log at the power plant is registered on the 8th of September, where it is presumed that he either died or retired. Around this time, the Bergman tunnels continue its reputation as a smuggling tool, as the Podska trafficking network is established, carrying moonshine to be sold in Olbensöö and other surrounding areas. Presumably around this time as well, an urban explorer named Lucas ventures into the Bergman tunnels and enters into the B2 corridor. despite the multiple warnings left behind by Robin and Eric. Inside, Lucas presumably meets the mysterious entity known as Morco. His fate is unknown. In 2008, the Blackrock nuclear power plant plans to construct a third reactor. A reactor that will be able to generate more power than the previous two combined. However, in 2012, the construction of the reactor is delayed until 2018. The construction faced many issues, as the construction of the reactor left few staff maintaining the older two reactors. Around this time, the town of Turnip Hill on the outskirts of Auburn is converted into an experiment, where many homeless people are relocated from the streets of Starburg to the town, and the residents are made to use a new currency named Open Sewer Coins. This currency only has power within the confines of the town. This system would allow for higher-ups to receive the actual money from the labour of the town's residents. In 2015, Stahlberg's second corruption scandal would erupt. However, the exact details are unclear. On the 5th of August of that year, the Stahlberg Department of Health would submit a health inspection report about Aziz Hamburger and Kebab in the Pidgeotha metro station. The results would be surprisingly negative, but this would be covered up with fake happy faces covering the real frowning faces. In 2016, following the end of the second corruption scandal, the National Consulting Group is put in charge of maintaining Stahlberg's infrastructure. The company finds a lot of maintenance documents absent. In June, extensive water damage occurs in the Edgeford district, permanently damaging a Von Wright tenement built during the 60s by Water Corporation, and to a lesser extent, Lohgreen's Massive and two other stone buildings built in the late 1800s. Around July, a resident of Turnip Hill named Jimmy P. Apple publishes a book named The Pineapple. Apple, being a resident of Turnip Hill, receives only open sewer coins, something that he is very unhappy about. Also in Turnip Hill, the son of Andrew Hertz, Kevin J. Hertz, and his daughter, Elo Bloomer, contracts Stahlberg mushroom virus. Blue mushrooms are later discovered that they have the ability to cure SMV, but Hertz is too far gone. His daughter, Elo Bloomer, manages to survive. Elo then begins to be hunted by a group of people that wear white masks and promise to give her a better life. What is described is similar to how the Stahlberg Underground is described. She then arrives at Turnip Hill to try and get her hands on a fake passport to make her way into the underground city. Although this is just a theory, a different interpretation of the facts suggests that after making her way to the underground city, she is kidnapped, and it is they who she is running from when she reaches Castle Rock Island. This can make more sense, as the Stahlberg Underground is said to run the underground city, although that does leave the question of what she was running from before she met the men in white masks. On the 1st of August, Phil Skullgangster, a resident of an apartment building in Point Elias, receives a final warning eviction notice. Skullgangster makes a mess outside of his apartment, as well as trying to sabotage the train station outside. The next day, the second grid classifier at the Pidgeotha Water Treatment Plant stops functioning entirely. On the 4th, NCG begins the demolition process on the Von Wright tenement that had been damaged by water in June. Unfortunately, due to a communications error, Lohgreen's Massive is demolished instead, and the mistake was too large to rectify. The owners of the buildings threaten to sue the company for damages, and NCG director Paul Lawrence makes a public statement on the matter. On that same day, new metal detectors are installed in Stahlberg International Airport in an attempt to speed up security measures. The detectors, however, cause many false alarms when in use. A report made by Esko Jarvinen on the 5th reports the quality of concrete of Castle Rock Island during renovation attempts. At around 2 o'clock in the morning on the 8th of August 2016, a group of hackers steal data on the servers to the Alcista building, resulting in National Consulting Group losing their data on Stahlberg nuclear weapons to the hackers. The attack causes the entire building to file redundant complaints. This also led Director Paul Lawrence to plan to have a group of employees survey the city, unaware of what their actual reason of the mission is. At around 7:30 in the morning, structural engineer Steve Johnson is sent to survey the Plowhead River, structural engineer Clara Dysart and Ahmed Rahal to survey the Two Gorges Dam, and structural engineer Marku Sultanen to survey the Hammer Valley Dam and the Bergman tunnels. After Mark collects his camera, flashlight, car keys, bowling keys, and hard hat, he drives up north to the Hammer Valley and begins to survey. From now on, things become quite determinate, as many plot points depend on the player's actions during the game. Mark can do a varied job in surveying the infrastructure, and can even reconnect the Hammer Valley Dam to the grid, unknowingly powering the S&W bunker. He then begins to survey the Bergman tunnels, and accidentally causes the collapse of parts of the tunnels. This causes a chain reaction across the city. This stresses the Two Gorges Dam on the other side of the city. Mark can encounter the enigma that is Morco in the B2 tunnel. Mark uses a raft to ride down most of the Bergman tunnel. At 2 in the afternoon, many residents of the Starburg begin to protest outside of many metro and train stations, it being the 30th anniversary of the Walter Square incident, where 86 metro passengers went missing. Around the same time, Mark finishes his survey of the Bergman tunnels and begins to climb to the top of the abandoned Starburg steel factory to get a phone signal to call his boss. After repairing the cell transceiver, his boss, Paul Lawrence, tells him about the damage done to the city's infrastructure, and instructs him to go to the Pitchif water treatment plant to get a view of how extensive the damage is. In the Starburg Steel Administration Building, Mark can call the owner of the raft which he used to traverse the Bergman tunnels, prompting the man to come collect his lost property, and offering Mark some tea at his apartment. He can also call Osmo Olut to get 240 bottles sent to his workplace. Carla and Amit return back to the office from their journey surveying the Two Gorges Dam, and talk with Lawrence about its condition. Sometime later, Steve Johnson returns to the office after suffering a foot injury, where a flood door closed while he was crawling through. Mark proceeds to the treatment plant, only to find no one there, but does find out about the extensive damage throughout the city. Mark then proceeds to the Pitchif metro station in order to get to the office. He first takes a shortcut through the hacker base, where Mark has to turn off all the traps to proceed. He then gets stuck in the sewer, but he manages to make his way out, right into the Union of Metalworkers offices, right next to the metro station. Due to the protests, Mark cannot take a train or escape the metro station, but luckily, Lawrence manages to convince an employee to let Mark use a maintenance tram to get home using the metro. Mark doesn't manage to get back to the office, however, as his journey is interrupted when the metro tunnel collapses. He ventures through the tunnels into the Starburg Central Water Plant. He later takes a mini-train to get to the Starburg Central metro station, only to find it similarly empty. He later leaves and can find his way into Walter Tower and find the tape left by Jeff Walter that proves his innocence. Mark could also have completed the beer challenge, a task involving collecting 5 bottles of beer left there by a man named Beermaster. After a funicular ride, Mark discovers the S&W bunker underneath Walter Tower, and if he had connected the Hammer Valley Dam to the grid, discovered the crashed train from the metro accident. After leaving the bunker, Mark traverses through the storm drain and finds himself in a cistern. He later goes on to find a coal-fired power station, where he meets Robin, who informs Mark of the troubles surrounding the station, and instructs him on how to repair it. Unfortunately, something goes wrong, and the power station explodes, nearly killing Mark. Upon regaining consciousness, Mark can either try to reset the smoke ventilation system to save Robin for asphyxiation, or leave without helping him, leaving him to die. Mark briefly enters a mine shaft before escaping to the surface in late evening. At 10 in the afternoon, the Two Gorges Dam collapses, causing mass flooding across the city. This causes Starbucks power to be cut off, just as Mark reaches Castle Rock Island. The flooding also causes people to begin evacuating the city. Mark exits Castle Rock Island and enters Point Elias, the business district. he makes his way back to the now flooded Alcester building. Mark reconvenes with Lawrence, Dysart, Rahal and Johnson. They are all informed of the situation surrounding the city. They plan to head to the Blackrock nuclear power plant to prevent a nuclear meltdown, as the plant was susceptible to flooding. Mark takes a car and gets stopped by a roadblock outside of Turnip Hill at midnight. He either bribes the guard to let him in with a six-pack of Osmo Olut, or, if he had saved Robin, contacts his friend Rob Madsen to tell the guard to let him in. Upon entering, he begins collecting open sewer coins by recycling bottles or finding them lying around, to pay to exit through Creeve's funeral home, although he may have given a metal rod to Rob to help him build something. Mark could also have chosen to ignore the task and take a metro train to the open sewer. This prompts the Stahlberg Underground to execute Mark using the machine. In the timeline where this doesn't happen, however, following the river outside Turnip Hill, Mark discovers Mikhail Rosenthal's old villa, and may have encountered Walter's last audio tapes before his death. Upon exiting, he uses a boat to traverse the flooding to the Blackrock nuclear power plant. Lawrence, Dysart, Rahal and Johnson also arrive at the reactor via helicopter. Lawrence encounters the plant's manager, Edwin, who instructs Mark on how to repair the reactor. In one turn of events, Mark can fail to prevent the nuclear meltdown, but if he does succeed, he can, if he has discovered enough of the S&W conspiracy, make Lawrence confess to his past actions in concealing the information from the organization. After Mark either prevents or does not prevent the meltdown, they all escape via helicopter. In the timeline where Mark fails, thousands of innocents die, and he moves to Finland. In the timeline where he succeeds, but does not find enough information about the corruption, Mark moves to Turnip Hill. For simplicity's sake, we will now follow the good ending Mark, as it is believed to be the most canonical. On the 14th, depending on whether or not Mark completes the beer challenge outside the bunker, he receives a diploma from Beermaster. In September, the insurance companies Stahl Insurance and Nord-Ed merged to form Nordstahl, a company covering 45% of the insurance market. Depending on Mark's actions in the water treatment plants, on the 14th of December, the CEO of Stahlberg Water, Roman Barnes, is replaced by Elena Farkas. On the 4th of January 2017, Marku Sultanen receives multiple emails, one of which is from the Raven Research Institute, which is different depending on how well Mark did uncovering the S&W conspiracy. This email can range from asking for more information to offering Mark a job at the Institute. Also that day, the brand Osmo Olut buys up Walter Tower, and, if enough corruption documents were discovered, the remaining officials linked to S&W are imprisoned for life for treason. Adolf Altmaier resigns as mayor, facing many accusations. The following day, Paul Lawrence calls Mark about a job surveying an abandoned prison on Whiprock Island. Also in 2017, Stahlberg begins to round up all those infected with Stahlberg mushroom virus, or have used mushrooms, rounded up and placed in a quarantine zone in Auburn Sewer. In Auburn Sewer, Rob Badson and Robin partner up to found Rob In Build and Repair, a company that renovates Auburn Sewer residents' tenements.